Hello and welcome back to Essentials, the series where I cover some foundational skills for both bounty hunters and cybersecurity enthusiasts alike. And today I'm covering a topic that I'm actually very excited about, which is the WebSockets protocol. So I'll cover what the WebSockets protocol is, how it differs from other protocols like HTTP, and I'll also show you a demo of a WebSocket server so you can see how it's implemented. So before I talk about WebSockets, I have to talk about standard HTTP first. So the way HTTP works is when you go onto a website, your web browser will send a request to a server, and then you will receive a response from that server. So you can see in this diagram here, you send a HTTP request to the server. The server sometimes polls some kind of backend, some kind of database, and you just receive HTML in response. So HTML is just the content of the website. So the stuff you can see like the title, the text boxes, etc. So the second diagram looks a bit different, and that's because it contains JavaScript. The modern websites use a lot of JavaScript to support traffic as well. Well, we don't really need to know about that, but that's just how, if you're looking at more modern websites, that's mostly how they'll be structured. So how is WebSockets different, right? So in HTTP, we send a request and the server gives a response. But the server can't send us a request. That's not possible in HTTP. And as well as that, the connection is stateless and it's not persistent, right? So once we send a request and get the response back, that's it, right? So the connection's over and there's nothing like saved or anything like that. So this is an issue if you have an application that requires some kind of real-time connection. So although this here is great, if for example stuff is changing constantly in real time, you would have to constantly send HTTP requests to fetch new data. And that's just inconvenient and not very good, especially for performance, because this is going to slow down your server and is going to start lagging the user. So to fix this, we need a sort of a way for both the server and the client to be able to talk to each other. So both you and the website to be able to send requests, right? And that is basically what WebSockets is. It's a way for the server to send you messages and a way for you to be able to respond to them, right? So you can see this diagram kind of explains a little bit about how WebSockets works, but I will go into it in a minute. I'll go in a bit deeper into it in a minute. So it's created using HTTP, where the client basically says, hey, I want to create a WebSocket connection. And the server says, okay, that's all good. Then after that, you can see there's a persistent connection setup. So what that means is that basically until one side closes the connection, it stays open. And both sides can then send requests and responses on that connection. And then once, for example, you leave the website or the server says, okay, I'm done with this connection, then both sides can choose to close the connection with a different request. So you can definitely see how it differs from HTTP, where HTTP is a one-sided kind of dialogue with you asking the server for something and the server responding. With WebSockets, it's you can ask the question, but the server can also ask the question and tell you things. So this is, for example, useful in a chat application. So now that you hopefully understand how WebSockets works, I'm going to jump into the demo example and basically show you how it works in the code. Okay, so here you can see a small demo example of a WebSockets application. And this application is going to be a chat application where two users can talk to each other in real time. So if you get past the terrible UI, what we can do here is we can join as one user. You can see we've joined now, and the system has said welcome. Then as a second user, we can also join. Now, hopefully, if this worked, you can see that we've now been informed that user 2 has joined. That's great. So now let's try and send a message, say test, and see on my other user, I've been able to see that message. And then I can respond, and then now we can talk to each other. Great. So that's the little chat application, and we can see that it works. That's good. Now, how does it work? So let's just go to the WebSockets history here, right? So I think there's going to be two different connections because I'm in two different users. But let's start with this one here, for example. So the first message that I sent to the server was like this little JSON request right here. You can see it's a join request. So I sent this to the user, and and this basically meant that I joined as user one. And you can see that I got a message back from the server, and the server said, "Hello, welcome user one," and then this was loaded as JavaScript here. So you can see it popped up there. So I sent the server a request, and then I got a response back. Okay, nothing particularly crazy about that. But if you see 5 seconds later, what happened is that I got another request, got another message from the server that informed me that user 2 has joined. Now, I didn't ask for that kind of information, right? That wasn't any request. The server just sent it to me because there was an event that triggered on the back end. So that's really the advantage here of WebSockets that you can see is that I was able to receive a message from the server without asking it for any information. So that's basically how it works. And then I can also send my own messages, of course. So I send this message called test here, and then I got a response back from the server which says, okay, I've confirmed that I've got this message back, and now you can display it here on the UI. And then, oh yeah, and then when the second user sent the message, I also got information about that, even though I didn't ask for it. So that's really how the WebSockets here is programmed. And the WebSockets is actually mainly a JavaScript thing where it runs in our code here. You can see there's a lot of JavaScript APIs for. I won't really go into detail about this, but it kind of runs here on our JavaScript, and then stuff is loaded on the web page into the UI. That's really all I wanted to show you for WebSockets. The server side isn't really that interesting, but it's mostly this side, and obviously from a cybersecurity perspective, we can edit the messages going to the server, and we can maybe test for some kind of vulnerabilities that way. Maybe we can modify this user parameter or whatever. And there's actually no standard like formatting type for WebSockets. So this could be in JSON, which it often is. This could be in a lot of different formats. Though this could just be plain text. Like this could just be like that could just have been like user one here, and like nothing else. It didn't have to be formatted in JSON. So keep that in mind. There's no standard format, and then stuff like Socket.io uses different things, which I'll get into in a minute as well. And yeah, so that's all I really wanted to show you. And to finish off, I'll just talk about some common frameworks used by WebSocket servers. So the first, and I think really the one of the most common frameworks, is Socket.io. This is really a JavaScript framework, but it has been adapted into a lot of different languages. Like I think you can use this from Python, and I think even like PHP and stuff like that. So it's kind of like both sided. So the first part here, this is running on the server, and then the second part here runs on your client, so in your browser. So this will be loaded in your HTML. And the way you recognize Socket.io is it always has these like weird square brackets where it'll keep the information here, and then it'll have some kind of number attached to it somewhere as well, which will be the number of bytes sent in the data. It's kind of a fairly unique way to send data. I don't know why they do it like that, but I imagine it's to kind of help process the data and stuff like that. And then the second thing is RPC WebSocket. This is called JSON RPC. This basically allows you to send JSON data through WebSockets. I think it's also commonly used for backends. Not WebSockets isn't exclusively used for talking to websites, right? It can also be used by two servers talking to each other through a duplex connection, right? So it can be used for that as well. It's just like HTTP isn't just used for websites. You can use HTTP for a lot of things, and behind like the server. There's a lot of services usually, like it's like a database and stuff, and the server sometimes uses HTTP to talk to those as well. Those are the two main frameworks. There's a lot of them. You can read about it more. I think there's a website called, actually I'll show it to you here. I'll link it in the description anyway, but it's called websocket.org, which has a lot of this stuff detailed, and I actually got most of the pictures and stuff from that website anyway, so you can have more of a read about it there. But yeah, that's essentially all I want to talk about today. That's the WebSocket protocol. The main things you have to take away from this video are that it's a two-way communication. So unlike HTTP, where only the client, so you, the person sitting behind the computer, is able to send messages to the server, in WebSockets, it's you and the server that can send messages to each other. Second thing is that connection is persistent. So it doesn't close once the request is sent. It stays, and it usually has a state attached to it. What that means is that the server kind of knows that you sent the message beforehand. It's able to identify that these messages were sent by you. So it's kind of more used for like security and stuff, where the first message might be like you telling the server who you are, and then you don't need to authenticate yourself for the rest of the requests. Unlike in HTTP, where there's no state saved at all. And yeah, that's basically it. So I hope you enjoyed the video. And oh yeah, before I go as well, I have labs released now as well. You can find them in the description on Gumroad. It's 12 hands-on practical labs. They're all hosted online. Don't need to download anything. So you can just access them at labs.yaxsec.com. And yeah, hopefully you enjoyed them. They're built on real bugs that I or other bug bounty hunters have found. So they should be very useful for your bug bounty journey as well. Well, anyways, thanks for watching and happy hunting.